So, here's another important lesson for you. If you have business partners, choose them more carefully than you would choose a spouse. And one other thing, never choose a lawyer for a partner. Right? And the reason I mention that is when you start a business, this Three Musketeers, all for one for all is great until two things happen. One of two things. Either you're really successful or you're really unsuccessful. And then parts of people's personalities come out that you never knew existed, right? And so this was a very, very difficult time for me as a young business person. Our partnerships broke up. There was 4 of us originally. And there was infighting amongst the partners. People were trying to take control of the company. They went to Coachman to try to have them leverage the control takeover. It was really an awful time, but it taught me some wonderful lessons about humanity. Now, those of you who know me will know that I'm the least cynical person you'll ever meet. Nonetheless, these were really hard and good business lessons for me. So, here's lesson 5. If someone owes you enough money, you become their partner, and they become your partner whether you want it or not. Right? So, we owed Coachman about 80 grand. We had no way of paying it. They were our partners. Right? So, about this same time, while I was sitting in my unheated warehouse building in Ann Arbor, contemplating the demise of my first enterprise, with nothing much else to do, I had some fabric left over from the samples, and I made this thing called a tank bag for one of the warehouse workers that was in another business that was sharing the warehouse with us. And because I had the patterns, I made it for him. This was to create extra space on a motorcycle because he was taking his girlfriend on a fall motorcycle camping trip. And because I had some extra fabric, I made another one, and I sent it to, I can tell you about him in a minute, and I sent it away to Cycle Magazine, which was at the time the largest publication in motorcycle world. So does anybody know who that is? You guys have to read more. Okay. You know what he said, right? That's Marshall McLuhan, and he's the man who said the medium is the message. Right? What did he mean by that? Anybody want to guess?
You have to get it in the right info stream.
It's not so much, and he was a genius, right? What a visionary. Right? What a visionary he was. This guy said that in the 50s and early 60s, right? Probably the 50s. He was a media pundit. He recognized as television was emerging into our culture the power and influence that it would have, right? And so what he meant by that was that it's not so much what you say, but where you say it, and getting it, as you say, into the info stream, right? So this was another lesson that I learned. So I sent this sample to Cycle Magazine, and this was in the late fall, and was literally depressed thinking about the demise of my first business, as I said. And then lo and behold, in the January issue of Cycle Magazine, which came out in December of that year, they came out with a 2-page testimonial on this tank bag that I'd made that said it was the finest aftermarket accessory they'd ever tested, virtually free of defects, don't buy one, buy 2. Orders started to flood in from all over the world. We'd never made any of these. We didn't have any money to make them. We didn't have any manufacturing facilities, but I ended up getting another big stack of orders. Right? Greed is a wonderful motivator, right? So this guy wanted to lend me money, but he couldn't responsibly do it, right? But he looked at those orders. Right? And this, by the way, the issue with the gas prices had really caused a strong economic malaise in the country. And interest rates at the time were like 22%. It was just very high. And so this guy wasn't loaning a lot of money. He would like to. He wasn't seeing many successful businesses, but he couldn't. All right? So I owed these guys, this is the board of directors at Coachman Industries, right? I owed them $80,000. They weren't likely to want to work with me again, but I was their partner, whether they wanted that or not, right? And I had this big stack of new orders. That's what I looked like at the time, and that's what they looked like, right? So enter this guy, right? Some of you may know him. This is Professor Andy Lawler. He and I were about the same age. We were kids at the time. The bank called him the Gatling gun. And if you ever met him, you know why, right? This guy has the fastest brain of anyone I ever met. He's a professor over at the Ross School now. And if you ever get a chance to take a class from him, he's just brilliant and he's a terrific, terrific guy. One of the things that my business has been known for, and I don't deserve all the credit for it by any means, is finding ways to apply creativity in non-traditional applications, right? And so Andy came up, and it's not just about designing products, right? There's all sorts of aspects of business that require creativity. So Andy came up with this idea, right? And we went back to this guy. We went to Coachman, and we said, look, well, we went to this guy first and said, what if we find someone to guarantee a loan? I said, well, fine. Who are you going to get? So I went back to Coachman, and we said, look, we have a banker who wants to lend us money. We've got this big stack of orders, right? If you guarantee the loan from the bank, now we owed him $80,000 already, right? If you guarantee the loan to the bank, they'll lend us the money. We'll let you manufacture the product that we have orders for. We will commit to giving the profits to you as we make them. And, more importantly, for those of you who can read a P&L and balance sheet, the liability will go as a contingent liability on your balance sheet. Right? So I can still remember them scratching their heads and looking at one another, and I said, well, this sounds like it could work. Well, it did, right? And they did it, and it worked. And that was the spark. That was that initial spark that got the first venture rolling after all of these sort of false starts.